So you just finished your film. Now you're in post-production. What's your next step? Welcome to Inside Plug, the podcast where independent creators and entrepreneurs connect and inspire. I'm your host, Devon Jones. Today on our show, we have a returning guest, colorist Daniel Goldberg. Daniel, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Hey, it was a pleasure having you on the first time around. And this time is even more interesting because you have a new project that you've been working on, and we're going to touch more about your production company, Melon Productions. But for the listeners who have not heard the first episode, can you give us a recap on how did you get started in filmmaking and how did you become a colorist?
Sure. So I got started in filmmaking, I guess, back in middle school, making short films with friends on back in those days, mini DV tapes, and editing them in iMovie. Um, so it was an early passion of mine for sure. Um, I then studied literature in school, for the most part, with, some film classes, but my major was literature, and I thought of myself as a writer, um, or a screenwriter, specifically, I guess, for the most part. And then wanted to see my films brought to life and started to learn about directing and took my first stab at a short film, back in like 2012 or so. And those were the days when color grading wasn't as widely known to the public, and I'm not sure that I really had much of a sense of what color grading was. I just knew that it was the next step after editing. And so when I finished editing my short film, I asked around for a colorist, and ended up with a great one named Alan Gordon, who's went on to do really great things. Um, and so I think I met with him in his home studio and kind of had no idea what I was really in for. Um, I mean, I had some ideas of maybe like, you know, how I wanted it to look, but no real sense of what DaVinci Resolve, which was the editing software he used and which currently use, what it was really capable of. And so I was kind of blown away by certain shots, like an an actress's lips that he was able to really like enhance and bring out and change the hue of, in a way that changed the mood of the whole scene. Um, and something clicked, and I realized that like this is a really powerful tool. Um, and it's something that kind of resonated with me because I love modes of expression that are sort of less analytical, like that can't be reduced to, a dictionary definition of a word, like this equals happy, this equals sad. And so one of the things I love about color grading is that it operates on this sort of like intuitive, almost like unconscious level, but in harmony with all the other components of the film, whether it's like the score or um, the wardrobe, the actors' performances, everything. But like, it's one piece of that mode of expression that's just like cinema. It's not like an essay, or it can't be conveyed um, with analytical means.
Awesome, awesome. So you took the chance on after being a film director, you were inspired by a fellow colorist's work and you said, "Hey, this is something that I want to do." Um is there a recent film or a film that you've seen lately that you've seen and you say, "You know what? I'm glad I chose this path." Because this is
Mm.
yeah, this kind of like solidified the journey that you've taken now.
I have to think about that. A recent film.
like the color in the film,
Or the
you know,
coloring.
yeah, it kind of just like blew you away.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. There's a show, The White Lotus, which has a really strong, warm look. And that's one that I think has is really well done and impacted me a lot recently.
Nice, The White Lotus. All right, so everyone that's listening, check that out. Look at the work, and yeah. So now, let's talk about your recent project that you worked on. It's called Fletcher's Five. How did you get attached to that project, and if you can share a little bit about it?
Sure. I mean, the director, Jay Street, reached out to me recently, through my website, I believe. Probably found me on Google or something. Um, and yeah, we talked about what he was looking for and clicked, and he brought me on the project. And it was a really fun one to work on. It's like a heist movie, has kind of like a classic blockbuster feel. It's like comedy, maybe a little mystery or like intrigue, sort of, yeah, action. Um, I guess a little bit of everything, but it's really well done and really nicely shot, and so it's fun to work on that footage. And yeah, we looked at a lot of Guy Ritchie's movies for visual inspiration, especially with the color grading, even though story-wise maybe it borrowed a little more from like Ocean's 11. He wanted more of Guy Ritchie's like visual style, I guess. So like high contrast and a little cooler maybe.
It's nice. So in the film industry, they have, they have the Actors Guild, they have the Screenwriters Guild, and then also for cinematographers, they have the Cinematographers Society. I'm curious for colorists, do you guys have like a group or like a society or collaboration that you guys get together and kind of discuss?
Colorists, it seems, are a little more like secretive and like, which I know there's a big colorist and YouTuber. I mean, he's mainly a working colorist, but he has a big YouTube channel that colorists look to for information and stuff. His name is Colin Kelly, and he talks a lot about how he's kind of trying to break open the doors of the industry and make it less secretive. There is a colorist society, which I'm not a member of. I've heard, I guess, from other colorists, I've heard mixed reviews. I don't want to like I wouldn't know much about it, have not being in it. So I'm not trying to like
Got you,
cause
got
a stir and bash the Color Society. I've heard mixed reviews about, what it brings to the table and whether, yeah. But there is something out there, but I think maybe colorists historically haven't been as quick to like share what they know freely with other colorists. Been um it used to be something that was prohibitively expensive unless you kind of had to like be an apprentice at one of the big studios, like let's say Company 3, to even really get your hands on the equipment. And then over time it's become less and less expensive, easier and easier to kind of set up your home suite, which is what I have here. Um, but I think maybe colors carried with them to some extent, like some of that mindset from the early days, like these are closely held secrets, and you have to like pay your dues if you want the secret sauce, or like I don't know. It's not so much like that anymore, but maybe there's like a residue of that still.
All right. Well, it is out there. All right. So for Daniel, you yourself as a colorist, how do you find your inspiration? Like, how do you bounce your ideas off, a fellow colorist, or like how does that come about to where you got attached to a project, and then like how does it give you? Where do you find the confidence in your ability to produce the work that you do?
Um, I mean, I think, the confidence part comes over time and, um, with happy clients. And it's not like I've reached peak confidence by any means, but it's like it's something you're always developing and working on. And then the inspiration, I go to Shot Deck almost all the time when I'm starting a project, and that's a great library where you can search by mood, by different lighting conditions, and of course, director, cinematographer, the usual kinds of things that you would find on like IMDb, but you get pretty high quality stills that you can use as inspiration. Um, I'll often go with that and then run those stills by a client, maybe pick out a few that are like they all could work, but maybe some are like just so that I'm not limiting them or their imagination to pick out some that are different from the rest, or like maybe not the first thing that would come to mind when you think, let's say, like moody drama, but still maybe could work. Like it was used in this moody drama from 10 years ago that I happened to find. Um, and it's like still warm, but still has that feeling. Um, so yeah, I'll give them like a handful of stills and we'll talk about them and see which direction they like. And then, I mean, I won't feel confident still going in off in that direction and just like making the whole project look like that. I'll probably first still want to like make sure it really applies well. And it's not a matter of like copy pasting from like a Hollywood film onto their project. It's like, what about this still maybe feels like it could work? And like, it's not going to be a 1-to-1 ratio, and it shouldn't really be anyway, because the content is totally different. But yeah, I'll go off in that direction and then send them maybe a handful of stills or shots from their film that like have some of that look um applied to it in my own way. And they might like it, or they might say, I want something totally different, or they might say, I like it, but maybe, there's too much contrast or whatever it is. And so I'll tweak it a few times. And once they like the handful of shots that I've selected, which encompass like hopefully the full range of the movie, like night shots, exteriors, interiors, any other thing that's kind of specific to that film. Um, yeah, once they've looked at that and are happy with like those handful of shots, I'll apply it to the whole film and then feel pretty confident then at that point going shot by shot and finessing each shot once that overall look has been applied.
Nice, nice. I love
So
that.
I don't know if that all made sense, but
Oh no, it does, it does. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. All right. So you mentioned the director found you on your website. Is that Horn Melon Productions?
yes, yeah.
All right. And could you share with us for the listeners who are unaware what Horn Melon Productions is and what's next for your production company?
Sure. So Horned Melon Productions is basically just me. Um, Except that if you Google my name, you'll get 20 people at least. You'll get hundreds of people with my name. And if you Google Horn Melon Productions, you only get my website and me. So that's one great thing about it. And it's a name that actually has its origins again in like when I was making films as a kid, like in middle school. That's what we called ourselves. So it's like a throwback to that, and it's something that is unique and easy to find on Google. Um, but aside from that, it's really just me. I mean, I do obviously collaborate with other people in post-production, and there are certain people I'll recommend for a project. If a director asks for like, you know, a composer or sound design person that I've worked with in the past, but they're not part of or Melon Productions, which is just me, myself, and I. And it's everything that I do, which is color grading, some video editing and visual effects, and some cinematography, but it's at least 95% color grading at this point.
That's nice. All right. So for the next generation of filmmakers, say you have someone who is looking to take a similar route. They were a film director, they seen a movie, and the color just blew them away. Now they want to pursue being a colorist. What is a film or even a colorist that you would recommend they take a look at?
I mean, lots of people in my industry would probably point to Jill Bogdanovich. I think I'm saying her last name right. Um, she's kind of the goat in the color grading industry. Um, been there since like sort of the genesis of modern color grading. In a way, I mean, before that there was color timing and but in terms of the real like digital intermediary process, like Oh Brother with Art, Where Art Thou? She worked on that. Um, and more recently she did the Joker films and works with Marvel a lot, and Wicked. So, which was a controversial one for some people. I mean, it was clearly, I actually haven't seen the film. I've seen clips of it and stills of it, but clearly she was, it was a very deliberate choice that the director made, and she was executing, and maybe I don't know to what extent it was her choice as well. I have no knowledge of that, um, but she's done a lot of varied looks, so it's not like that's the Jill Bogdanovich style or anything. I mean, no good colorist really would have, I don't think, their own style that would sort of defeat the purpose really of being a colorist. You don't go to Jill Bogdanovich because you like the Joker and want her to do the same thing on Wicked. It doesn't work like that, I guess. But yeah, she's considered best of the best, and she knows a lot about the color science, part of things, working with show LUTs. So, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Um, have you seen the Wicked movie?
I haven't, no, I've seen clips, and I've seen stills, and I just heard, maybe only because I'm a colorist. I don't know how widespread it really was, but I heard that some viewers didn't like it.
Oh,
Didn't
yeah,
like the look specifically.
got you.
It's much more, it's much more subdued than as a look than The Wizard of Oz, which was definitely a deliberate choice that the director said he made, because he wanted to sort of, in contrast to The Wizard of Oz, to make this film feel like it was, I guess, more real, or that we were like peeling back the curtain of everything we thought we knew about Oz, which is sort of the premise of the story too, in a way. And so to try to do that with color by kind of stripping it of that technicolor shine and getting into like what this place really is. So yeah, but I mean it's a little more, I guess, pastel maybe or just subdued overall from what I've seen at least.
Oh, that's fair. And if anyone out there that's listening, if you've seen Wicked, please share your comments. I would love to hear about it. Me myself, I was actually late to, the realm of theater, and Wicked was one of the first plays that I seen. And then, I seen the movie. Um, I love both of them. I couldn't tell you which one is better than the other. But I do have a positive review on both of them. I really don't have much negative to say about it. I loved it. I love the acting. I love the singing, the numbers, even the colors. I loved it. But I'm curious if anyone who's listening seen it. I would love to read your reviews about it and hear what you think. All right. And that was our episode for today. Daniel, once again, thank you for returning. I appreciate everything that you do. And for future colorists out there, look at some films, see how they, bring out these emotions. Look at the colors that they use. Remember, colorists don't have a certain style, but hey, you never know what can work for you. Give it a shot and check out Shop Deck. It's what you mentioned. And also, don't forget to check out Daniel's website on Melon Productions. Look him up, reach out to him, connect with him, and keep creating. Daniel, you got any last words you want to share with the viewers?
No, I think that sums it up well. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning into Insight Plug. Remember, every story has a voice, and every story is worth being shared. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. We're here every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Remember, keep creating, stay inspired. Inside Plug, signing out.